So adults have 100 billion neurons, and they're firing electricity constantly in your brain. You're born with 1 trillion neurons, so the kids have 1 trillion, we have 100 billion. Now you brought a neuron model with you, so you just hold your hand up like this and say neuron, and then when new information comes into the brain to be learned, it's attached to the nucleus. So say nucleus. And then that sets off the electrical response, and that's where you can see and hear the electricity. Then that electricity sends chemicals down this long arm called an axon, and the chemicals go swooshing down. So let me hear them swoosh. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Good, then the chemicals jump across this space right here called a synapse, and that's where the learning occurs. And then the chemicals lock into these finger-like projections called dendrites. So now you've learned something new, so it's stored away and retrieve it. And when you remembered it, this axon myelinates. Now myelinate is the verb, myelin is the noun, and it's a fatty sheet that covers that axon to help that chemical electrical response be more efficient. Until a few years ago, scientists thought that was just structural, but now they know that myelin may hold on to memory. So, if you want more myelin, you're out of luck. You won't get more, but you can make what you have stronger, last longer, and work more efficiently. And that's by eating omega-3, omega-3 fatty acid from things like fish, salmon, tuna, but also almonds, walnuts, flaxseed oil, avocados. So we need to have an omega-3 rich diet. And once it myelinates, every time you pull that memory back out, it myelinates again. So the more you remember it, the thicker the myelin. Multiple sclerosis, by the way, is the stripping away of that myelin sheet. So now that you've had this neural pathway, every time you learn something new, you grow a dendrite. So show me your dendrites. That's how smart you are. Now if you learn something new about this dendrite branches. So this is called secondary dendritic branches. These are the details you know about this subject. They think Alzheimer's might be the clumping up and the shriveling away of those secondary dendritic branches, which is why they only remember what they learned a long time ago, and their short-term memory dissolves. So far, the only thing that scientists have found that strengthens that secondary dendritic branching, that strengthens that memory, is exercise. To the point that if you exercise today, anything you've learned in the last 48 hours will be strengthened, because exercise strengthens your secondary dendritic branches. So that's how the brain collects the memory, and then the information goes to several different parts of your brain. So if you put your hand on your head like this is your frontal lobe, and this is the library of the brain. This is where we hold on to information. Make a small little filter right between your eyes, and that is the prefrontal cortex, and that's where we pay attention. And that is the Okay, and that's where we pay attention, our prefrontal cortex. It's called your executive function. It's where you plan, judgments, decision making. And then this is your temporal lobe that's on the side of your brain, and that is where we process language. And then back here at the back is your occipital lobe, and even though your eyeballs are up here, this is your TV screen called the occipital lobe. And up here is the parietal lobe, and this is where we make decisions like, am I hot, am I thirsty, do I have to go to the bathroom? That is your sensory area of your brain called the parietal lobe. Back here at the base of your brain is called the cerebellum, and that's motor skills, agility, and coordination. That's also where we put patterns into a sequence. Then down the base of your neck back here is the brain stem, and that's where everything automatic happens, like blinking and breathing and heartbeat in your medulla oblongata. But that's also where kids go into survival. I'm not doing that, can't make me do that. And they're in survival mode. So to get them out of there, just say, if they're all locked up like this, say, and just walk with me over to the water fountain. And once they start walking, they have to come out of their brainstem into their cerebellum And then they have to see where they're going in their occipital. They're listening to you in their temporal lobe so they can argue with you. They're plotting against you in the parietal lobe, and here's where the bad words are to call you bad names, but at least they're in their thinking brain and not their survival brain. So that's the regions of our brain, and then make a model of your brain by putting two fists loosely together, and that's about the size of your brain. Now we know information in your brain flows all over. It flows front to back, side to side, and up and down. And when information flows back to front, front to back, that's us getting our ideas to the paper, for instance. Side to side is us decoding and comprehending, and up and down is the emotional part of the brain going into higher level thinking. Now when information flows side to side, it crosses a midline in your brain called the corpus callosum. So rub your knuckles together and say corpus callosum. And now make a line that goes up and down the middle of you and say corpus callosum, because this is your corresponding body midline. And then when information goes back to front, it crosses another midline in your brain called the motor cortex. So put your hand on your head like you have a headband and say motor cortex. And then make a line going across your middle here. That's your corresponding body midline. That's your motor cortex. So notice we have 4 quadrants in our brain, 4 quadrants in our body, and we happen to have a limb in each one. And that's because we're fearfully and wonderfully made with design and purpose. And we're designed to walk in opposition. That's not just balance transfer. That's the left side of my brain controlling the right side of my body and vice versa, but also the back controlling the front controlling the back. It's all integrated. We organize it through movement and we energize it through movement. So that's how the brain sends information through the brain. That was awesome.